We have always been told as an entrepreneur, you need to find a problem which is in the existing market and then find an affordable solution for it. In this way, you grow as an entrepreneur, and there are chances that your company might sustain for a longer duration of time. Sadly, entrepreneurs today are copying the existing ideas and problems and finding a solution for it. In this way, their venture fails quickly. Today, we are going to talk to a personality who has not just found a unique idea or problem, but has also solved a very common issue that we face in our day-to-day lives. Today we are going to talk to Mr. Siddhant Tawarawala, founder and CEO of P-Shoot. P-Shoot is basically a pocket-sized product which is used for urination. A lot of times we might have faced this in public places. It gets hard for us to urinate. So this is a pocket-sized product that in which you can urinate, and P-Shoot solidifies your urine, and it is easy for you to dispose it. The interview would include design psychology, product identification, marketing, and gender hygiene, and many other aspects that are required, especially in the startup ecosystem. So I would request you all to please watch the video and stay tuned.
Sure.
Yeah. So my very first question to you is, can you walk us through the journey of Siddhant being an entrepreneur of a venture? How it all started? I mean, how do you got up in this entrepreneurial zone, and from where did you got all this kind of inspiration or motivation or any kind of idea that you extremely got into?
So I would start with describing the journey of Siddhant. So I basically come from a Marwari family, where it's a typical mindset to have your own businesses. More of a traditional kind of thing over here is not to do startups, but to have your own empires and get on to build that however you can. So since the inception of my birth, I was like into getting into businesses and all that stuff. Though I come from a family background of professionals. My dad is an advocate. My elder brother is an advocate. We didn't have a full-fledged family business. We had few family businesses which are operating in a small traditional scale, but they were not too interesting. So by graduation, I'm an engineer. I'm a mechanical engineer. That is just by degree. But within late years of engineering, I decided that engineering is not a field where I can actually be good as a person, or do something I want to do to the space, where I could get some more business knowledge, finance knowledge, accounts knowledge, marketing knowledge. I decided to go for an MBA. And then I got selected in one of the courses offered by Nirma University, which was MBA in entrepreneurship.
Right.
That is where actually the journey of an entrepreneur, in me began, where problem solving and problem identification was the first step which you're taught in any entrepreneurship or business management schools, wherever you're dealing with a new product. And luckily, I got into a few of the workshops, brainstorming workshops, where it was to identify a problem space where you still don't have a commercial product in the world. And this was a space, and this was a problem which was faced by me. Primarily, I used to travel a lot in sleeper coach buses and drink less amount of water, because the drivers didn't stop the bus. And that is how I could relate to the problem. And the problem identification happened, and then research of that problem happened. How big is the problem? And then you finally got a space, where you can practice your ideas. And that is how the spirit of having your own startup was there since the start.
Okay. And did you face any kind of criticism while doing this?
Absolutely. I think as a friend, people did encourage me. But when you try to know the true, opinion, people were not actually in favor of gender hygiene or actually in favor of this product. Like they were of course good friends and few of my mentors which wanted me to excel into it, but nobody believed actually that this is a space which there could be a product and the product could excel in.
Right.
But yeah, I could say I had few friends and couple of friends which I can count on fingers who believed in me whatever I do in my life. So everyone has that, right? And during my MBA, I did try to collaborate with few of the friends as a co-founder. or found them very suitable to get into some position of the business. But what happens with a startup, especially when it started in college, is there is a lot of wait time for it, or there is a time where you don't get returns paying yourself initially, at least for a few years and few months. So few of my friends had an arrangement that they would wait for this particular number of months, and then if you could generate funds or revenues, it's fine. And if we couldn't, they would have their another plan B. And that is what exactly happened. They joined me, and it took some couple of while for us to develop the product and get into the market or get the funds on the right place. And they left me. And then after that, I carried and stretched the company alone myself. And until now, I have my elder brother, who is filling that position of co-founder, but still he is not a full-time founder to me, and I'm still expecting the team to grow, the core team to grow, especially.
What is the team size of our venture currently?
So in terms of core co-founders, it's me and my brother. We have 4 employees who are on the production end, and we have 2 employees who are on the sales end.
Okay. So is there any kind of qualification needed for a person to get into the production kind of profile for you?
I don't think so. For production, all positions need any kind of qualification or experience. Okay. Definitely the production manager, which is still an empty position, I would want that to have several skill set and experience. But below that, the production processes are quite of having gain that skill and how to run and operate that machine, which includes a specific training duration time. Once any layman can do it, we are more than happy to hire them, and we focus on women employment. So 60% of the recruits or daily labor wages whenever we hire, we try to get in women, so that they get more skills, and that women building empowerment has been done by a company at all stages.
That's a really good thought. And why I asked this question, because there are a lot of people from our rural areas or tier 3 cities who really want to get into startup culture. So that will be a good chance for them to get into your venture as soon as possible. So after seeing this interview,
I would like to explore. The community which you have, Abhishek, and I would like to seriously get connected with whatever profiles we get, rather it be in manufacturing, production areas, because there are a lot of job works where we need human involvement or a particular women, female employment or labor employment. And apart from that, also we do have some business planning expansions to get into tier 2, tier 3 cities.
Right.
So would be needing volunteers or interns or someone who just experiences how to pilot a new product or new project in the market. Would be happy to have that connect, Abhishek.
So how difficult is it getting to get into tier 3 cities, where actually whenever someone listens the name of pad, menstrual hygiene, they get freaked out? So I mean, for a man who's like he can urinate everywhere, so he doesn't have any problem to do this. So how difficult is it getting for them to convince, or for selling our product, or for getting our product approached there?
So firstly, I would tell, though we operate from a tier 3 city, our target market is actually not tier 3 city. 60% of our sales and revenues are from exports, where we export it to US, Canada, and few parts of Australia. And coming to your question about, it's a whole Indian mindset, and not only in tier 3, but even in tier 1, men would feel that when they can openly urinate, why do they want to pay for a product like this? But what we are doing is we are trying to segment the market for this product, where you come in a situation where you actually have no option. For example, if you're sitting in a sleeper coach bus, people travel in bus. So bus stops twice, in the whole journey. That too, when there is a lot of pressure from the customers.
This has happened with me.
So there are this kind of experiences where you are in a situation like outdoor exhibitions and outdoor events. You just can't openly urinate. You can urinate in public spaces, but you can't urinate in hospital in a bed when you have an emergency with your fracture. You can't urinate in a travel bus. You can't urinate at a tourist place where there is such a beautiful surrounding. If you go to Taj Mahal, even if you go to Taj Mahal, there is a 200 meter or 300 meter gap of urine washroom till you walk. So what we are trying to build is, we are trying to build a whole concept of urination through this product, where it is just on the go. you think you got a urination, and there is less of a stress and amount of work involved behind that to find a washroom and use it. And we hope, especially after the COVID times, the psychology of consumer changes, where importance of hygiene is been understood. How important is hygiene for our health? Something small can just shut the whole world down. So what kind of world we are living in, where health, hygiene, or diseases are so important? So I think people will now completely change and be very welcoming towards the hygiene products and take sincere care, which would help them to grow hygienically.
Okay, so I'm very curious to know about the design psychology that was going in through your mind while making the prototype for P-Shoot. How was the actual plan of action while thinking of this product? I mean, how did you thought of making it such a compact piece, and what was the design psychology that was?
I'll just share you the stages of design I went through and our team went through. We started simple. First thing we started was with a urine bottle. So and I'm sure there are many people in their lives who have paid in their bottles, but have never shared their experiences, either in events, exhibition, football matches, cricket matches, stadiums, theaters. So that is how the first prospect of having a physical product for this kind of concept was to take a bottle. And then we actually thought that it has to be so compact that when you travel, it has to get easy for it. And then from bottle, we shifted to a polythene bag, we shifted to a balloon, we tried out with condoms, and then the user psychology of every prototype was first our few people there, 10 people who I approached with all the demographics. Okay, I'm building on this and I need your support and inputs in terms of design psychology to just give me a feedback of how you feel the experience in being in this particular thing. So 10 people peed in bottle, 10 people peed in a balloon, 10 people tried to use condom, 10 people tried to use a polythene bag. Even myself was involved as a customer user for that. And gradually at every phase of development, we found out few options. Okay, this should be there, this should be there. And then we came up with a paper bag finally, which would hold the urine. But thinking again in 360-degree angles, that urine should be handled carefully. What happens when somebody disposes it of? What happens with the leakage? And then we bought several cotton pads and several substances which actually tries to absorb that urine. And this is how we came up with the finest prototype ever. I think we can make it more better. Where now we have a pocket-sized small paper bag with a unisexual funnel on top, and it can be conveniently used by males and females in their comfort situations.
Like after this COVID scenario, what are your major projects that can be anticipated?
We are trying to get into sleeper coach buses and outdoor events and exhibitions. So sleeper coach buses, it's a basic problem of urination. Every sleeper coach bus has a problem of urination, where we want to promote a product and provide a systematic facility, still compact in the buses, where people can have a washroom facility with all the standards of hygiene, utmost standards and high standards of hygiene. Apart from sleeper coach buses, I think getting into the public spaces and outdoor events is our next target to grow in.
Have you thought of a product that could because not only urination is the problem while traveling, a lot of people have travel sickness, motion sickness. So is our company working on that kind of thing where people can
I think there are few products already available for the motion sickness, but it's a very easy iteration for us. But I don't think so that is a broad enough market before the urination. There are very less number of people which get this motion sickness, but there is every individual which get a problem of urination. So I think how broad the market is, your approach should be that first. The bigger the market, the more you get into it, and then later on you can squeeze in small points.
Actually. So I've gone through your profile last day and have seen the article of your collaboration with a UK company, and we have so can I get to know the experience, how we connected to the UK company and why we have shifted our name from Pea Shoot to Relief?
Sure. So there is a program run by UK government under Newton Foundation. The program is called Leaders in Innovation Fellowship Program. I was a part of that program where the UK government actually calls up different entrepreneurs from different countries, and they celebrate entrepreneurship in UK by promoting the culture of entrepreneurs, by improvising the globalization of entrepreneur startups, and by training and giving them some advanced kind of knowledge which UK and Britain think they have achieved through the Newton Fund and the whole Newton Support Foundation which they run for innovations. So through this program, I was invited to UK, and I succeeded in convincing one of the potential partners over there to have the product in UK. And that is how I collaborated with them. Why they shifted from Pea Shoot to Relief is basically because of the psychological mindset and demographic mindset of people in India and people in UK. So what we think in India, a product should, once the brand name should be such that once you read it, you can relate to the brand name. So the psychology of putting Pea Shoot in India was we wanted the word Pea, we wanted the word shoot. It is actually inspired by the word parachute. Because Parachute already has a brand name and people can easily recollect it. So we just tried to replace with P and then put a pinky finger where the logo recognition is there. However, what we found in UK market is people didn't want to get related to the product because the intellectual understanding for the product in UK consumers is high. Once you read the subline, they understand that it's a urine bag. So when we did the survey, people didn't want that to show that they are carrying a urine bag with them. They wanted like a fancy purse kind of thing or a leaf kind of thing. So that is how the consumer psychology of branding played differently in two places. And that's why we rebranded it as a Relief in UK.
So do we also do the branding of the product, or we have partnered with any company who's looking for the branding stuff?
We usually don't go for a white labeling option, especially in India, but in external countries, especially in UK, the contract which we have made with them was, is something which is of very high potential and which is a win-win situation for both of us. So if there is a situation for us where we see that, getting a new brand is valuable for the company, grows the product more, we will be open for that. But basically brand building is you build one brand and then take everything in one umbrella. So that would be the mindset for Indian market at least.
Okay. What kind of challenges, being an entrepreneur, what kind of challenges on a daily basis do you face?
So this is a very tough question, Abhishek. Every day is a tough day. Actually, in terms of challenges, initially you have to wear multiple hats. You have to excel in everything. You have to be the sales guy, you have to be the marketing guy, you have to be the admin guy, you have to be the production guy. I mean, you have helping hands, but you need to have, you need to excel your skill set in that information so that, you can train another person to take that department ahead. So we are in a pre-series A round of funding. So my day usually does not start very good as it should be mentally. As it was 2 years ago, where I have a blank mind and I am enjoying the morning breeze and coffee. My days now usually start with a lot of checklist and task list which I have to complete, which is not a good feeling. And similarly, the night, where it's not just very smooth as it was when I was a student or I used to sleep like a baby before that. I'm sure I will have those days again until the things get aligned. But workload and this managing everything, all the hats together is most important challenge which we need to address as an entrepreneur, as a early stage entrepreneur, I must say.
Okay. Talking about the resources, since it might, how many years did we completed in this?
2 years we will be completing.
So since we have completed 2 years, still we haven't equipped that much resources. So talking about the resources, is it really necessary to have a team in large numbers, or I mean, we can be a jack of all trades and do every task? How easy it is for going with the team of 10 people and doing it single-handedly?
See, I'll tell you, of course, having multiple people in team is valuable. And at whatever point you think that there is a sustainability of this 10 people for at least 2 years now, you should go for that. The reason I am still single-handedly or operating it with less resources, human resources, is because I think we are still on the value proposition cycle, where a complete value proposition for the product offering is yet to be completed in the market. Like I've said, for sleeper coach buses or for outdoor events, so the complete cycle of product development is still incomplete, and we've been running on half concept. एक product बना लिया, now wherever it is useful, you use it. I mean, we have tried to expand team. We've got sales managers in healthcare. We've got sales manager in this. But having small pilots, that the value proposition of product offering is not complete as a startup. So until and unless you get that value proposition complete, there is no use of scaling up. Right. Honestly, we are in a risk situation that we don't know where, how long we can survive if we don't try to, address the complete solution of the product and concept offering. So that is one reason. I mean, we have excess funds in our bank accounts. We have investors lined up. We have good mentors, but still we don't have resources. Is because the scaling up resources are yet to be completed. There are some stages to be completed before you get a full-fledged team on board, or else the productivity of team just doesn't work. You get hire people, they sit idle, or they're trying. There is no vision alignment in what they actually have to do, because the company's basic objectives are yet to be set. So I think we are still at that phase to achieve that level, and then multiplication of resources will happen.
Okay, what profiles are we currently hiring? Why I'm asking this, because I can reach out your message to all the students out there.
Yeah, so currently
very interested to work with.
We're business manager, the ones who's done MBA. Or distance MBA also, for pilot testing the concepts and having an initial pilot test at various locations.
Okay.
So we're looking for young people who could, go and set up the system for us as on the pilot basis. We have not built a technical sheet for that yet, but yeah, this is a major profile. It's more on the business development profile itself.
What basic myths do you want to debug in the startup ecosystem?
Especially considering India as a country, or tier 2, tier 3 cities where, the life of an entrepreneur is still underestimated.
Mm-hmm.
I would like to, clear out the myth where don't listen to people who discourage you, very early discourage. If you still believe from, not from the heart, believing from the heart is not everything. It tries to create the passion and dedication for the work. But if you somehow believe in the process that this is going to happen, and you have continuous statistics or things working in favor of you, they might be 2 out of 10. That is not a problem. But you can make it 10 out of 10 and you're sure about that. Just don't leave it. Because I have faced and I've experienced many of my friends, losing out and giving up on their startup dream just because of the peer pressure, family pressure, societal pressure. Where at least in metros this is not happening, where entrepreneurship is celebrated, but if I tell you Jalna, if I tell you small places like this, an entrepreneur's life is still considered as a struggling life, which is you don't get good signs from people. So don't get demotivated by what people say. Try to surround yourself with people who actually try to encourage and motivate you. This is what I would just tell Abhishek.
Wow, that's really great. So 2 days before, I was talking to an entrepreneur, and he mentioned that the funding process is easier for the people who have an initial background of IITs, and especially someone who is related nearby to cosmopolitan cities. How difficult it was for you to get your initial funding done?
I don't think so. In today's scenario, funding is actually a difficult thing.
Okay.
If you achieve the value proposition, or if you show the path of achieving that value proposition to the investors, and not only investors, right now we are in a ecosystem of entrepreneurship especially promoted by Indian government or NGOs or NPOs. There are Tatas coming in, there are Reliance coming in, there are HULs coming in. All the MNCs are trying to promote entrepreneurship. So initial 25 lakhs of funding for a layman and entrepreneur is not at all an easy task if he has a valid proposition. So what I would like to say is, whatever problem statement you're trying to address, focus on getting that value proposition, or at least build that path so strongly that you can convince other people that I'm going to achieve this. If you have this IIT, IIM, or a metropolitan city is just a number. But of course, why investors or the people who put in money think on that way is they just want to see the person, how much dedicated they are, how much passionate they are, how much how much promisable they will be to take them on the path. And I, being an MBA, I think I have more confidence in speaking to you and convincing you. But that doesn't mean people who are not in MBA can have that. Usually, again, this is a myth where if you think that you are not an MBA, you somehow stubborn to stick in front of an investor. So it's in the mindset itself of an entrepreneur who thinks that MBA can do better than me, then he's lost the game over there only. If he thinks that he can do better than MBA, he will perform well in front of investors and in front of pitches, where he says it out loud that I can do it. So that is what the investors want to hear actually. But so it's all self-thinking and self-mentality of an entrepreneur. How you train your mind, how you train your brain, the power of subconscious mind, which we all study and see. So think things are going to happen and they will actually happen, especially in terms of pitching. Pitching is very important. You need to take in confidence with the people who are hearing you.
Okay.
So I'll tell you, I might be in so many situations where I'm not sure of what the question would be, what the answer to that investor's question would be initially. But somehow I tried to address that and convince them that, okay, I think I don't have an answer for this question, but I'm sure, we are working on this aspect by giving some example. So that is how convincing works. And you have to gain trust of whoever the person on the other side is.
So reading the minds of investors get easy when you try to pitch in a lot of investors, because few of the investors are interested in the exact numbers that you are going to pitch them. Few of the investors are looking for the promising mindset or dedication that you are going to put in. Few of the investors are looking for their self profit. So there are a lot of aspects, and whenever you are going to try and pitch different mindset investors, then you'll come to know what they exactly want. So by
Yes.
this, I'm sure a lot of students would get an idea on this. So thank you so much for answering this. My last question to you would be, since being an entrepreneur, what things or tips would you like to advise or suggest to all the future startup enthusiasts or wannabe entrepreneurs who want to get into startup culture?
So I think the most important, start as early as possible. Like there is no late or there is no early days, of course, but in the mind you get something, start working on it. Initial days, the more you delay it by some reason, the more you're making distance between you and your startup. So if you want to be a startup guy, if you have something in your mind, tomorrow, today, right now, immediately is the time to at least give a basic, modeling or working towards it. And at every stage, if you think like that, what will happen is you will reduce the distance between you and that startup. The more you get closer to it, the more you understand it, the more you get towards it, and that dedication and all the things get improved. So the right time to start is now. Don't regret about your age. Financial security and all is definitely a questions to entrepreneurs, especially students, that they want a financial life. It's their individual choice. It's I think it's their individual choice, and how they have grown, in what environment they have grown. Have they seen money? Are they hungry for money? Are they hungry for just living? Would their parents allow them to marry some girl? Would some parents give their girl to the student? All that factors, it depends upon the individual. In my case, I think so I had my family had a basic setup where there was no problem of actually food, house and all. Of course, luxury and all is something which is treated to all, which is expected by all. But in my case, I had my basics of living. So उससे ज़्यादा मेरे को कुछ नहीं चाहिए था until I started. So रोटी कपड़ा मकान सोने के लिए घर है. That was enough for me, and I used to spend very wisely. So just get that passion and keep going.
Basically, entrepreneurs enjoy the process. They don't look out for an outcome.
You are on your way. You don't have to figure out what people say. You have to be very far away from people's thought, and you have to be very far away from the societal group clustering thoughts.
Right.
You are on your own way. You have your own processes. And it is very challenging. Be proud of yourself if you've taken that decision and achieved even small milestones. So get happy by yourself, get sad by yourself. It's a lonely journey, but it's an interesting journey.
True, exactly. Really. So Right. Thank you so much for giving your valuable insights to all the students.
All right.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, Abhishek, for having me. Pleasure.
It was nice
Good.
talking to you. Yeah.
Same here. Bye bye.